This is the Prophecy Project. Understanding the times, the nations in military conflicts, with Bible teacher and author Alan Bonk.
Welcome. This is the fourth video in a new series of prophecy videos. It is now 2022 and things are changing all around us. By that, I mean the world, its plagues and governments are going out of control. This is a study of the second book of Ezra, which is also called For Ezra. The videos are divided into individual chapters from the book. Some chapters will be much longer than others. This is a shorter one. Some have a lot of personal input and questions from Ezra himself. However, most of the chapters are still prophetic in nature, as is this one. I have given each chapter a simple title from something I found in that chapter. Chapter 4 is The Similitudes and Signs. Ezra chapter 4 is a continuation of the chapter 3 questions and answers that we saw there. Verse 1. And the angel that was sent unto me, whose name was Uriel, gave me an answer, and said, Thy heart hath gone too far in this world, and thinkest thou to comprehend the way of the Most High? Then said I, Yea, my Lord. And he said unto me, and said, I am sent to show thee three ways, and to set forth three similitudes before thee. Therefore, if thou canst declare me one, I will show thee also the way that thou desirest to see. And I shall show thee from whence the wicked heart cometh. And I said, Tell on, my Lord. Then said he to me, Go thy way, weigh me the weight of the fire, or measure me the blast of the wind, or call me again the day that is past. Now, dear viewer, before you say, we can do these things today, remember that we do things today with the use of devices, of instruments, because we cannot do them by ourselves. You can't stand in a field and do the things then or now. Verse 6. Then answered I and said, What man is able to do that thou shouldest ask such things of me? And he said unto me, If I should ask thee how great dwellings are in the midst of the sea, or how many springs are in the beginning of the deep, or how many springs are above the firmament, or which are the outgoings of paradise, peradventure thou wouldest say unto me, I never went down into the deep, nor yet into hell, neither did I climb into heaven. Nevertheless, now have I asked thee but only of the fire and wind, and of the day wherein thou hast passed, and of things from which thou canst not be separated, and yet canst thou give me no answer of them? He said, moreover unto me, Thine own things, and such as are grown up with thee, canst thou not know. How should thy vessel, then, be able to comprehend the way of the highest, and the world being now outwardly corrupted, to understand the corruption that is evident in my sight? Verse 11, the comment in verse 11 deserves to be highlighted. How should thy vessel then be able to comprehend? This is reference to Ezra's mind and understanding. Ezra can understand the outward corruption of the world, which he can see, but he cannot understand or see the corruption which is evident to God. God sees more than we do and judges and acts appropriately, according to all the information. This is a common problem even for us today. We say, doesn't God see what's happening? Why doesn't he stop it or do something? we can, if we're not careful, end up judging God. Well, the whole time, we didn't see the whole picture. The evidence that God is using to make his decisions. We often also have a conflict with God's purposes and his will. We think we know best how God should act or react. God never reacts. He knows what is going on, and it affects his plans. He optimizes his actions to make the best outcome from every foolish action that men make. To save fallen, corrupt man from eternal separation from him. He sees the entire picture, and because of his nature, he always makes the right choice. Then said I, in verse 12, unto him, it were better that we were not at all, than that we should still live in wickedness, and to suffer, and not know wherefore. I suppose that most of us have been so frustrated that we have said something like this. It would have been better that God should have never made me. I should have never been born, or I don't understand why I have to live in this stupid world. However, we, you and I, can get the victory over sin and its consequences through the gift of salvation that Christ has offered to us. However, it is still a challenge to keep our focus on God's purposes. At the time that Ezra was writing this account, God's perfect work was not yet obvious. So Ezra's reaction is understandable. Verse 13. He answered me and said, I went into a forest, into a plain, and the trees took counsel, and said, Come, let us go and make us war against the sea, that it may depart away before us, and that we may make us more woods. The floods of the sea also, in like manner, took counsel, and said, Come, let us go up and subdue the woods of the plain, that there may also we may be able to take another country. That the thought of the woods was in vain, for the fire came and consumed it. The thought of the floods and the sea came likewise to naught, for the sand stood up and stopped them. If thou were to judge betwixt these two, whom wouldest thou begin to justify, or whom wouldest thou condemn? I answered and said, Verily, it is a foolish thought that they both have devised. For the ground is given unto the wood, and the sea hath her place to bear her floods. Then answered he me and said, Thou hast given a right judgment, but why judgest thou not thyself also? For like as the ground is given unto the wood, and the sea to his floods, even so they that dwell upon the earth may understand nothing, but that which is upon the earth. And he that dwelleth above the heavens may only understand the things that are above the height of the heavens. Then answered I and said, I beseech thee, O Lord, give me understanding. This similitude allowed Ezra to see that his comparisons between Babylon and Israel and Ezra's thoughts as compared to God's thoughts were foolishness. Ezra comes to the point that he says, Lord, teach me. Let me have understanding. Verse 23. For it was not in my mind to be curious of high things, but rather of such as pass by us daily, namely, wherefore Israel's given up as a reproach to the heathen, and for what cause the people whom thou hast loved is given over to the ungodly nations, and why the law of our forefathers is brought to naught, and the written covenants come to none effect. And we pass away out of the world as grasshoppers, and our life is an astonishment and fear, and we are not worth to obtain mercy. What will he do unto his name whereby he is called? Of these things have I asked. Ezra says he does not know why Israel is under chastisement. He says the law and the covenant are of none effect. Surely he understands that the children of Israel have turned to other gods and killed the prophets, those who were sent to correct them. The laws were given to Israel were indeed covenants, and the covenants required two parties to participate. The very laws that Ezra is referring to are the reason God had to act. If God says, do this or do that, and I will disinherit you from the land, he is obligated to chastise his people when they go astray. Nothing has been brought to naught. The laws are still in effect. They are, in fact, actually operating. Israel is not passing away as grasshoppers. While they are truly embarrassed and humbled, God has not sent them to a place where they cannot prosper and sustain their identity. Yes, the Babylonians were sinners and deserved to be judged, but not until after they provide a place for the Jews to serve their sentence, the time of their separation from home. The prophet Daniel knew the situation was temporary, only 70 years. Evidently, Ezra did not. God has never stopped loving his people, but he must judge their actions and words. Not one, heathen or Jew, is worthy of mercy. No man can be. We are all corrupt. Mercy comes to man, not because we are worthy, but rather because he, God, is merciful. It is his nature. Verse 26. Then answered he me and said, the more thou searchest, the more thou shalt marvel. For the world hasteth fast to pass away, and cannot comprehend the things that are promised to the righteous in time to come. For this world is full of unrighteousness and infirmities. But as concerning the things wherein thou askest me, I will tell thee. For evil is sown, but the destruction thereof is not yet come. The angel tells Ezra that the world is indeed full of unrighteousness. The Babylonians have sown evil, but the destruction of them is not yet come. It is inferred that it will come. It hasteth. He also indicates that the world has no clue, no comprehension, cannot comprehend that the righteous have been given promises from God in time to come. Verse 29. If therefore that which is sown be not turned upside down, and if the place where the evil is sown pass not away, then cannot it come that is sown with good. The grain of evil seed hath been sown in the heart of Adam from the beginning, and how much ungodliness hath it brought up unto this time? And how much shall it yet bring forth until the time of threshing come? Ponder now by thyself how great fruit of wickedness the grain of evil seed hath brought forth. And when the ears shall be cut down, which are without number, how great a floor shall they fill? Then I answered and said, how and when shall these things come to pass? Wherefore are our years few and evil? The angel tells us that the kingdom that is sown of good will not come until the evil which has been sown is turned upside down. He calls the destruction of evil the time of threshing. He says that the evil has been brought forth from the time of Adam. Yes, that Adam, the first man created, and that all evil and unrighteousness has flowed from Adam's corrupt heart, the anashi, or fallen nature of man, through his seed. The angel tells Ezra to consider, ponder, the number of those which will be judged, those of the evil fruit that will be without number, and will fill a great floor. The angel is focused on the source of the evil and the scope of the numbers. But Ezra asks, how and when? When will it happen? Does it mean that we will live only a few more evil years? Verse 34. He answered me, saying, Do not thou hasten above the Most Highest, for thy haste is in vain to be above him, for thou hast much exceeded. Did not the souls also of the righteous ask question of these things in their chambers, saying, How long shall I hope on this fashion? When cometh the fruit of the floor of our reward? First, Uriel tells Ezra not to get hasty, not to get in front of God, as to push. He tells Ezra that it is vanity to be above him. Uriel tells Ezra, Thou hast much exceeded. I did not read all of this hastiness from Ezra's words, when he says how and when. But obviously the angel did. And he addressed it in no uncertain terms. He says, it is vanity to get above God. He uses the name Most Highest. God is often called the Most High because there is none higher, no one. Uriel, in verse 35, continues to explain some facts that I suspect have been hidden prior to these comments. He phrases the subject as a question to Ezra. Did not the souls also of the righteous ask question of these things in their chambers? This is in reference to righteous men who are in Sheol, the abode of the dead, their chambers. Their souls are asking questions concerning the timing of their hope. When will the fruit of our reward come? I don't know how Ezra would have been privy to these questions or to have answers unless he had revelations that we know nothing about. Although it is possible that Ezra understood that the dead souls can bring suit to God from Sheol. From the book of Enoch, Enoch had seen the spirit of Abel making complaint to God from Sheol concerning his brother Cain. Ezra may well have had access to Enoch's book during his training as a priest. The book of Enoch has been in use all the way from his day, Enoch's day, all the way to the early church, Christian church. Jude refers to it in his book, 1:14. It is striking how similar the Ezra account is as compared to Revelation 6:9, where we see the souls under the altar. When he opened the fifth seal, I, John, saw under the altar chambers the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? Then a white robe was given to each of them, and it was said to them that they should rest a little while longer, until both the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who would be killed as they were was completed. Again, even there, how long? Everyone has the question, how long? It seems that Ezra is in good company. Now, back to Ezra, verse 36. And unto these things Uriel the archangel gave them answer and said, Even when the number of seeds is fulfilled in you, for he hath weighed the world in the balance. By measure he hath measured the times. By number he hath numbered the times. He doth not move nor stir them until the said measure be fulfilled. Then answered I and said, O Lord, that bearest rule, even when we are full of impiety, and for our sakes, peradventure it is that the floors of the righteous are not fulfilled because of the sins of them that dwell upon the earth. Boy, Ezra quickly acknowledges that it is God that rules over the earth. O Lord, thou bearest rule. He also admits that it is because of our sin that righteousness is not yet fulfilled. Verse 40. So he answered me and said, Go thy way to a woman with child, and ask her when she hath fulfilled her 9 months, if her womb may keep the birth any longer within her. Then said I, No, Lord, that can she not. And he said me, In the grave the chambers of the souls are like the womb of a woman. For as a woman that travaileth maketh haste to escape the necessity of the travail, even so do these places haste for those things that are committed unto them. From the beginning, look, what thou desirest to see, it shall be showed thee. When the fullness of time comes to pass, nothing can stop the birth from happening. So also the judgment of the sin of the world will happen without fail. Nothing will stop it. We, of course, do not know how full the world is, or how the chambers of Sheol, how full they are. Ezra is told, Keep looking, it shall be showed to you. What thou desirest to see, it shall be showed thee. Verse 44. Then answered I and said, If I have found favor in thy sight, and if it be possible, and if I be meet therefore, show me then whether there be more to come than is past, or more past than to come. What is past I know, but what is for to come I know not. Ezra is trying to figure out where he is, timing-wise, within the timeline of the world. He basically asks, are we halfway yet? Or is there still more to come than half to go? Verse 47. And he said unto me, Stand up upon the right side, and I shall expound the similitude unto thee. So I stood and saw, and behold, an hot burning oven passed by before me. And it happened that when the flame was gone by, I looked, and behold, the smoke remained still. After this there passed by me a watery cloud, and sent down much rain with the storm, and when the stormy rain was past, the drops remained still. Then said he unto me, Consider thyself, as the rain is more than the drops, and the fire is greater than the smoke, but the drops and the smoke remain behind. So the quantity which is past did more exceed. Then I prayed and said, May I live, thinkest thou, until that time? Or what shall happen in those days? He answered me and said, As for the tokens whereof thou askest me, I may tell thee of them, in part. But as touching thy life, I am not sent to show thee, for I do not know it. Uriel gives Ezra 2 similitudes, parables, to show the placement of Ezra in time. They indicate that much more has passed and is going to come. The problem for us today is that we don't know when the rain started, or even when the oven was lit. Thus, it is only a general relationship, not a specific time. We do not know that the events which Ezra is going to be told about, the judgment of the world, all we do know, of course, is that it has not yet happened. And it's been 2,400 years since Ezra, and we are still waiting. To end this chapter, we see that Uriel tells Ezra only what he has been told. When it comes to Ezra's life, only God knows, and Uriel admits that he does not. This is the end of chapter 4. You can go to the next video in the series, to chapter 5, or to any other chapter you wish to view. Thank you for watching.
This was only one session of many. Be sure to continue watching the Prophecy Project series. If you would like to read more information on this subject, You can find Alan's books on Amazon.com.